In a world post-Turtles Forever, team-ups between different iterations of the franchise became an easy way to connect different generations of shellheads. However, it would take Nickelodeon 7 years to develop its own team-up adventure during the 4th season of the 2012 show. But would they be able to recapture the magic of that movie and correct some of its weaknesses? Join me today in this exploration of the episode titled The Transdimensional Turtles and find out. While this was the first team-up between the two sets of turtles, the Fred Wolf universe had already made a cameo in the show during the 2nd season, only making contact with an angry Tiger Claw, who had just carved his way out of a Crothatragon. During the 4th season, the Turtles went on a journey through time and space, which felt like the right excuse to cross dimensions as well. Unlike the Turtles Forever movie, this time it was the current iteration that was taken from its universe. The Turtles were in space looking for another piece of the Heart of Darkness when they were snatched from the Ulysses. Upon their arrival in the 1987 universe, the Turtles realized something was different. They were now in a 2D world. After seeing the 1987 Donnie holding what looked like a blaster, the 2012 Turtles felt under attack, and a fight ensued. It wasn't until Donnie explained that the device was a portal projector that they stopped. The 1987 Turtles explained that they took them from their world because Krang was trying to destroy both realities. Krang appeared in all his glory. It turned out that his exile was finally over. The Krang was letting him return home to Dimension X. After setting up his Dimensionizer, a device capable of wiping out both worlds, the 1987 Turtles attacked him in their very unique fighting style. Krang survived the attack and escaped to the 2012 universe. The 8 Turtles followed him through the portal, and upon arrival, the 1987 Turtles found themselves in 3D for the first time. Krang was planting another Dimensionizer on a rooftop. 1987 Leo led the team to attack him, but Krang escaped again. 2012 Donnie inspected the Dimensionizer, and with the help of his 1987 counterpart, they deduced that it was an antimatter weapon capable of wiping out their dimensions. To work on defusing it, 2012 Donnie decided to take it to his lab. Of course, this was their lair, but not their time. They were lucky enough that the present-time Turtles were not in the lair, but Master Splinter was. This was an emotional moment for our Turtles, because the last time they saw him, he was just killed by the Shredder. Before Leo could explain their situation to him, the Donnies realized that the bomb was linked to 2 other devices, rigged to go off in just 9 minutes. Knowing they needed to defuse the other 2, they set up their portal projector to the 1987 dimension, but they were intercepted on the way and taken to the Technodrome in Dimension X. Krang Subprime, who happened to be Krang's cousin, felt very smart about this, but Krang knew they were playing with fire. Just like he predicted, the Turtles managed to escape back to the 1987 dimension. Back in 2D, the Donnies worked on defusing the bomb, while the rest of the Turtles fought against Krang and Krang Subprime. After defusing the bomb, Krang explained that the other device was in the primary Turtle reality, and destroying those Turtles would trigger a chain reaction that would kill all the Turtles in the multiverse. The Donatellos opened a portal to the primary dimension, where the format changed again. This time, instead of simple 2D, the Turtles could move through comic book panels. On their way to the Channel 6 building, they got intercepted by the primary Turtles, who confused them for enemies. The Donnies managed to escape with the Dimensionizer back to the 1987 dimension before the primary Turtles could catch them. The Turtles tried to escape from Krang and Krang Subprime, but their portal got hacked again, and they ended up returning to the Technodrome. However, the situation took a comedic twist when Krang Subprime discovered, by listening to the Turtles, that Krang had been trying to destroy the realities that the Krang had been trying to mutate for thousands of years. It turned out that Krang misunderstood the assignment. Krang Subprime asked him to get rid of the Turtles no matter the cost, but this wasn't what he intended. Angry, he sent exiled Krang back to the 1987 dimension. With only one villain left, the Turtles used the portal projector to send Subprime to the primary Earth. The Turtles said goodbye and departed for their dimensions. Back in the 1987 universe, The turtles were eating pizza on a rooftop when they were surprised by the apparition of a Crothatragon, the same Dimension X worm that carried Tiger Claw in that previous cameo, indicating that this was the moment of that battle. Tiger Claw ended up displaced in time as well, or at least this is what we can infer. The 1987 Turtles would return for the show's final season. The Transdimensional Turtles was written by Brandon Auman and directed by Alan Wan. The title of the episode is a reference to the RPG supplement of the Palladium books named Transdimensional TMNT. Unlike the budget-constrained Turtles Forever production, Nickelodeon was able to afford bringing back the original cast to record their lines. Cam Clark as Leonardo, Townsend Coleman as Michelangelo, Barry Gordon as Donatello, and Pat Fraley as Krang. Rob Paulson, who voiced Raphael in the 1987 series, played double duty in this episode because he was already voicing the 2012 Donatello, something they made sure to slide a joke about. Unfortunately, Rob was sick when the cast got together to record their lines, so he had to record them separately. Another guest appearance in this episode was Gilbert Gottfried as Krang Subprime. The reunion was a much-anticipated event, and you can even check out the behind-the-scenes over at Black Nerd Comedy's YouTube channel. Along with the returning cast, Nickelodeon also used the music from the 1987 show, which made a big difference for those who really missed it in Turtles Forever. The episode retconned a crucial element from the 1987 lore by making Krang an actual Utrum. It had already been established that Krang was a disembodied brain, so he was never supposed to look anything like the Krang or the Utrums. This was controversial because the Fred Wolf cartoon made a huge point out of Krang wanting a body. There were other story elements that I feel should have been explored a little further. For example, given that Krang already knows that destroying the Prime Universe could destroy the multiverse, one could assume that this story takes place after Turtles Forever. Having such a big cast already, it's no surprise that the primary Turtles ended up with no lines. But this means that I'm not sure what was going through their minds when they decided to attack these turtles. At which point in their history did this cameo take place? Is it the universe or the turtles' death that could cause such a chain reaction? Could the turtles die of old age without causing problems? Or is it just at the very beginning of the journey that this could be a problem? And would Dimension X be exempt from the destruction of the multiverse? I know Krang is not his usual self in this adventure, but he would probably try to avoid destroying the multiverse. Another big question is about Krang Subprime ending up in the Prime Universe. This is his last appearance on the show, so I think we could assume that the Turtles killed him. But this is where it's crucial to know more details about the status quo of the Prime Earth. Have the Turtles already met the Utrums? Would they consider Krang Subprime an enemy or an ally? And what if Krang Subprime killed the Turtles? Would that cause any issues? As the saying goes, it's just a show, I should really just relax. In terms of production value, it would be unfair to compare a TV episode with an animated movie, especially a show with the constraints of CGI. The creative team came up with the idea of changing the style for each universe, from 2D to 3D to comic book panels. This gimmick, while cool, was also inconsistent. The CGI Turtles turned 2D in the Fred Wolf universe, while the 1987 Turtles turned 3D in the Nickelodeon universe. But they kept their styles and frame rates in the Prime universe. If I had to make a guess here, I would imagine that it had already been established in Turtles Forever that visitors from other dimensions could keep their colors. But there was no panel-to-panel animation in the film. There's also criticism of the animation quality in the 1987 universe. This is an area where Turtles Forever, already a 2D animation production, had no problems imitating the Fred Wolf style. But it was completely new for the 2012 show, and I'm going to assume that, given the TV show's deadlines, they didn't have enough time to make it look like the old cartoon. The reverse was also a little weird. Seeing the old characters in 3D was a little off-putting, but you get used to it after a while. I think Krang was the character that looked best in CGI. The awkwardness extended to the portrayal of the 1987 Turtles as well. This was another criticism of the Turtles Forever film, so it was important to course-correct the characterization of those turtles. However, the two universes were so different that it was almost impossible not to fall into the same trap. 2012 Raphael would not just make fun of how the 1987 Turtles looked, but also criticized their in-universe logic, obsession with pizza, lack of stealth, and fighting style. Despite the new Turtles being mean to the old ones, I'd have to say that at least they kept their original personalities, and we probably have the original cast to thank for that. In conclusion, I think that, given the constraints of visiting a universe in 2D for a 3D show, we got a very decent team-up episode. Nickelodeon was able to correct 3 problems of the Turtles Forever film: the original music and cast, and the characterization of each turtle. But because it wasn't a traditional animation show, the Fred Wolf universe felt too simple and unfinished. The story was also a little repetitive, and left me with a bunch of unanswered questions, but it did the one thing that it set out to do: a team-up with the original cartoon. From my personal point of view, while I prefer the original cast and the more loyal characterization of the Turtles, I still prefer the more emotional Turtles Forever as a whole. Fortunately, this wouldn't be the last chance for the 2012 show to tap into the Fred Wolf universe. They would reunite during the show's 5th season, in a much more interesting story with higher production values. But that's a story for another video. What are your thoughts about the trans-dimensional Turtles? Do you like this episode more than Turtles Forever? Were you disappointed that the 2003 Turtles weren't ever mentioned? What do you think happened to Krang Subprime? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.